when I was reading up on a lot of your judgments, I found the dissents quite interesting. I think there's not enough focus on the judgments in which you have dissented. So I actually want to start there. And I listed a few. Aadhaar. I don't know how many people remember that you had a dissenting note in Aadhaar and you actually questioned whether there was informed consent. Sabrimala, because you said it was not for the court to decide what's an essential religious practice, right? These were two that really stand out. Also the Bhima Koregaon case, where you believe that the police investigation had infirmities and the petitioners had a right to a different sort of supervision of the police investigation. I don't know that enough attention is paid to the moments that you expressed a rebellion within the constitutional framework. When you look back at these dissent notes, were you disappointed that you couldn't drive those verdicts in a different direction, or the court didn't go in a different direction on these?
Well, some of them I would have anticipated that I would be the lone ranger.
Aadhaar in particular?
Absolutely, because when arguments are going on in the court, of course, the bar assesses judges from the perspective of what, you are discussing and so on and so forth. But between ourselves, we are continuously in a dialogue. When we get off the bench, when we are meeting in chambers, we're waiting for a hearing, all the judges assemble in the Chief Justice's chamber before and after usually for a cup of coffee. So you're discussing the lines of possible conclusion. So as the head of a bench particularly, and the other judges as well, you're conscious of the way the case may be eventually unfolding. So it's not too much of a surprise that, you're taking a particular position. But for me, a dissent in that sense was a matter of principle. I also dissented, in the marriage equality case.
That's right.
Where I said we must at least recognize the right to form unions.
And also to adopt children.
And to adopt children. So in that sense, a dissent is really an appeal to the present and to the future. Because these issues which we decide, and many of these which you mentioned were so important from the perspective of, the future course of our society, that I thought that, well, even if I'm just the sole individual who is striking a different note, I have to say that, because ultimately what a judge is known for, or the difference which you make to society, is through the written word, because that is what you lay down for the future. And therefore, it's critical for a judge to write and to speak their mind through their written work. And therefore, whether it was Aadhaar, it was Bhima Koregaon, or, so many of the other cases where I have dissented, including something as innocuous as whether, in a matrimonial dispute, should mediation be allowed through technology? Two of my colleagues said that, no, you can't have technology. It must be a face-to-face mediation.
Yeah.
And I said, good heavens. I mean, if one of the partners is situated in Silicon Valley and the other one is in Bangalore, how can you have both of them coming face-to-face? I mean, they'd be giving up a week of work and then attempting some mediation. So each one of these cases really, in that sense, to my mind, speaks to what my vision of the good society for the future was.
So do you continue to have serious concerns about Aadhaar violating the right to privacy, which was one of your key judgments?
Actually, I looked at it from a doctrinal perspective. I also see now, over the last, several years, as the benefits of Aadhaar
of course, they're tremendous.
have percolated down to our society. And therefore, I wouldn't take that away at all from the Aadhaar project, just in terms of, what it has done to ensure that social welfare benefits particularly are made available directly to our citizens, the direct benefit transfers, for instance. So I don't take away for a moment the benefits of the Aadhaar scheme. But from my point of view, the Aadhaar scheme did not introduce adequate safeguards for the preservation of privacy. And that was the core of my dissent, because particularly today, as we are now moving into an age which is governed so much more by AI, and every aspect of our lives, we lead electronic footprints in whatever we do. Whether it's ordering a meal on Swiggy, or ordering a book on Amazon, or on Kindle. So you're constantly being watched. not watched necessarily by the government, but watched by Big Brother, which could be
the new 1984.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, particularly in today's highly interconnected and networked world, governed as we are by now by AI, it's important that we preserve the core of individuality. Otherwise, every little aspect of our lives is almost in the public realm.
So you think Aadhaar is a great scheme, but it should have more citizen rights in terms of safeguarding privacy and also understanding consent?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the essence of my dissent.
Yeah.
And therefore, even going forward, what we can learn from the experiences with Aadhaar is that as we adopt more and more such schemes, we have to introduce adequate safeguards to preserve the sanctity of individual lives and the privacy. And I don't think it would be a correct postulate to say that merely because an individual is not affluent, that therefore you're willing to forsake your privacy. The argument on the other side was that, well, all this is a very, very elitist concept. And I said, no.
Yeah.
Valuing privacy is something which has nothing to do with social class. You need to preserve that element of the privacy of every single individual in society, irrespective of the class to which they belong.